So let's continue with the solar plexus and emotional beings. The emotional beings with their wave, with that whole process with trying to bring clarity and understanding into the emotional beings' lives, so that they recognize what clarity is, so that they recognize how their awareness works, because that is a great selling point. It comes out of the wisdom that comes out of the open center. So half of humanity is open to the solar plexus market as a profit center. Beside it, here is the ajna, the mind center. And it's interesting to note that it's easier to sell inspiration than it is to sell concepts. Look at the modern marketing. It's all tried to inspire the buyer. We're doing the same thing. We're trying to inspire people, right? Human design is good for you, blah, blah, blah. But when you're trying to sell a concept, there is a majority that does not want it. 49% of humanity. It's still a lot of people. We're still talking about over 3 billion people. So the 49% of humanity is open to concept, and the 51, not really. So when you think about that, that is basically intellectual training systems. People with open minds are natural into being seduced into all kinds of educational training. It can be endless for them. And of course, there are those who directly benefit from it by being able to provide all of that for the selling of concepts. The moment we're changing into a more complex centers, like we're going into the solar plexus center, and we see that there is 7 very distinct ways. The 7 gates means 7 distinct ways in which the solar plexus as a profit center operates. So with each center, there are different dynamics, obviously, that are at work. And when you are dealing with the ajna, with the mind center, you are dealing with 6 ways in that sense. So we're dealing with different sub-themes, and those sub-themes are most importantly read through circuitry and circuit keynotes, because circuit keynotes tell you something about the nature of the thematic, like the individual circuitry empowers. So this is a specific kind of product or service. It's an empowering product or service. And when you are dealing with the collective circuitry, you are dealing with sharing. This is the kind of thing that bonds communities together by having shared values, shared products, shared services, shared this and that. And when you are dealing with tribal circuitry, you are dealing with support. And so much of what is now very successful in the world, what we're a part of, the so-called self-help industry, all of those kinds of things of the financial industry, the banking, for example, all of that is built into the tribal and the support themes. So this is something that we will return to, because those simple keynotes are very important to keep in mind when we're going to look at the gates within the centers, because it allows us to see how the profit center differentiates through different themes. So for example, the 61st gate of empowerment and the 63rd and 64th gates, which are collective and sharing, you can see that inspiration is not supportive. It is not tribal in nature, and this is like aha moment. It is not supportive at all. None of the concepts are supportive. And you are going to have problems if you are trying to inspire people like that. You are going to offer them something really supportive, but they will not buy that. Now we come to the splenic center. Now, this is very important in terms of the so-called healing profession. So you can see that 47% of humanity, and again, we're dealing with a vast number here, the billions. So the 47% of humanity is holding on to things that are bad for them. We're talking about those who are with open or undefined spleen. And this is the strategy of the open spleen, holding on to things that are bad for you. I mean, the strategy of the not self. And I'm going to hold on to Joe, even though Joe is making me feel bad, because as long as Joe is in my aura, I feel secure, even though Joe is an abusive dude, you know? A lot of families are, with abusive relationships are based on that. And of course, we know what happens. The mind takes over as the propagandist of the not self here. And the mind is always in there ready to say, we're still going to hold on to this, even though it's bad for us. So now you have a question. Now you have the answer to the question to why she's not leaving him, you know. This is why. This is one of the main reasons. So you can see that the market here is about getting people to move away from holding on to things that are bad for them. And because the spleen is about survival, this takes us into not only the health field, but it takes us into all kinds of things. Consultancy, for example. It takes us into all kinds of areas that are there in which the product is getting people away from things that are not good for them. And now it is not about healing people that are already sick. This is about keeping people educated so that they have a holistic and healthy life, learning how to keep away from themselves what is bad for them, you know. So this is something very special about, you know, the marketplace of the open self. But remember, we're dealing with a spleen that has a deep tribal aspect to it, and a deep tribal aspect that is deeply capitalistic. It is very materialistic. So yes, even though a lot of this has to do with the immune system and well-being, it also has to do with a lot of other things. So it has to do with the fact that capitalism does not survive without deep support within the community. You cannot impose capitalism from top down. It's a disaster. It has to be imposed from the bottom up because it is natural for us to barter. We started from this. I mean, it is the most natural thing in human beings. And to barter for gain, you know, and it's the illusion of gain that both sides get in a fair barter. And all that is rooted in the basis of the tribe and the basis of the development of the tribe. So the next step is the G center, or the self center, how I call it. And again, here we have 56% definition in the G center, and that means that 44% of humanity is undefined. That's the market. And 44% of humanity is still looking for love and the right direction. So I will continue this fascinating topic in the next video. Stay tuned.